We are just about ready to start with our speaker. I want everybody to be aware that you're being filmed in the back of the room, so you really have to behave yourself tonight. I'm sorry, you're being videotaped. I'm trying to be more. No, it's not videotaped, it's all digital now. Anyway, I'm out of it. There's pie over here on the table. Please help yourself. Mark,
you're going to be doing a double because this is for the recording only.
Oh, okay.
You're going to hold that.
Oh, I got to hold it. Okay. Okay. Well, all right.
So be sure and remember that and say hello to Mark before you go. Horlocker will introduce Keith.
And I got to step behind you there. Get going. I got to prepare this. Yeah, thanks.
Hello. How was the steak? Now we're ready for stories. So our friend Keith Clayton is a science journalist, and he is a Christian living the way. He's here to share his thoughts on the intersection of science and faith. Here we go. Keith and I have a lifelong friendship with a basis in Christ. I think we attended K through 12 together, so please don't tell them stories about me, and I won't tell them stories about you. So, we were in the same Cub Scout pack, and the Cub Master used to say at the end of the evening, at the end of the pack meeting, "May the great Scoutmaster of all scouts be with us until we meet again." So there it is, a little bit of faith jumping right into you.
Yep.
Right into you. So in our formative years, through the faith of others, we were challenged to become aware of something big and powerful that created and is guiding the universe. Tonight, Keith will share his journey with you. He's noted that this journey has not always been along a straight and narrow path, but thanks to John the Baptist, we've learned you can return from the crooked path. So that's the grace of Jesus. Keith has been a faithful member of our Bible study, men's Bible study, and several of us are here tonight. Keith's been in that group for about 15 years, so wonderful. So again, as I said, he's going to talk about intelligent design. He's coming to you, he's a humble Christian on a journey, seeking answers like we all are. And he's exploring, tonight he'll explore the intersection of the Bible and science. His background in journalism, his Christian upbringing. So those two things, journalism and Christian upbringing. What is faith? Why should I believe? He's looking for explanations, which I think you'll see tonight. So his mission is to educate us. There'll probably be a little bit of entertainment along the way if I know Keith Clayton. So.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I have to find it entertaining.
So you'll see the logic and faith that he shares. And thank you for bravely sharing with us tonight. And welcome, Keith Clayton.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Horlocker, for that introduction. Yeah, about 30 years ago, I had a crisis of faith, dark night of the soul. What I was learning at church, reading in the Bible, and reading in science textbooks on my own just wasn't aligning. It wasn't correlating. So that's when I started doing some research. First read a book called Case for Christ. I don't know if any of you remember that. Case for a Creator, Lee Strobel, anybody? Well, maybe not. And then I fell upon intelligent design. Does anybody know what intelligent design is, by any chance? Somebody did. Do you have a working definition of that, or yeah? Okay, well that's my job. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I just want to get a baseline. I take this as pretty new for most of you, right? So, okay. All right, let's go. Hopefully we can figure this out. Okay, what is intelligent design? This is the simplest definition. The theory of intelligent design holds that certain features of the universe and of living things are best scientifically explained by an intelligent designer, not an undirected, natural, or random process. So scientifically explained, that's important. These are the three core arguments of intelligent design. Number one, the universe had a beginning. Hope you all believe that. From absolute nothingness, Big Bang, just as many faiths always believe, but which science rejected for thousands of years until the 1960s. Number two, the universe is fine-tuned for life to a degree that defies sheer chance, a fact that mainstream science accepts. The DNA molecule is similar to software or an alphabet that carries information. The only way information is created is through an intelligence and not through any natural law or process. Okay, what intelligent design is not? We're not creationism. No cavemen riding dinosaurs, no young Earth. We don't count back genealogies in Genesis 6,000 years. That is creationism, and there are brothers and sisters in Christ, but that's not who we are. We're not theistic evolution. Anybody hear a theistic evolution? No? Okay. Theistic evolution thinks that God acted at the beginning of the universe and then it was hands off after that. We're not anti-evolution per se, and more on that later. It's kind of a nuanced position. We're not anti-science. We use accepted mainstream scientific methods and data. And we're not religion or faith, although ID does point towards faith. Okay. All right, what faiths believe the universe has an intelligent designer? Well, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and as I've learned, panpsychism. The people believe that discipline or movement believes the universe itself is conscious. So they're also included in our Big Ten. We have a very Big Ten. Spoiler alert, or in all honesty, there's a lot of Christians involved in this movement, discipline, philosophy of science. But there are other people too, including agnostics. Okay, who believed that the universe had an intelligent designer? Well, all the superstars of science back then, insert groan there. Copernicus, Galileo, Kepler, Newton, Boyle. We'll go through them real quickly. Copernicus, remember? Sun, Earth moving around the sun, not sun moving around the Earth. Galileo, who picked up that idea and got in some trouble with the Catholic Church. Kepler, elliptical orbits and the motion of planets around the sun. And then Newton himself, Mr. Gravity himself, and a lot of things, including calculus. We were talking about calculus at dinner. He invented it. So they were all God believers. This is a great quote from Sir Isaac Newton. The most beautiful system of the sun planets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. And they all had comments like that. Their idea was that you had two books to know God, the Bible and the book of nature, and they did not see a conflict. Okay, you hear a lot that science is in conflict with religion these days. Well, Western Christianity, Western Europe Christianity, invented the scientific method. And they did so because they believed humanity was created in the image of God. Humanity could understand his creation because we are made in his likeness. We have his mind, partly, not as advanced, but God made the universe so we could comprehend it. Einstein famously said the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is its comprehensibility. Number two, but because humanity is sinful, humanity must test their notions through experiments to see if they accord with observations of nature. That's the Latin original sin, and I don't know how to pronounce it. If anybody wants to try, have at it. This was the dawn of the scientific revolution or enlightenment in the 1500s. So once again, scientists who were Christian believers invented the scientific method in all the early universities. Oxford, University of Paris, and University of Bologna were founded by theistic believers. Okay, what modern scientists believe in intelligent design? So I'm not going to go through them all. But the blowback we get is that we're associated with creationism, but our scientists have some very impeccable credentials. You'll see University of Cambridge there, Dr. Stephen Meyer, University of Cal Berkeley, Princeton University, postdoc work, mathematics, molecular biology, Columbia University, and it goes on, Stanford, Caltech, all of the above. So these are some of the leading lights, and they've all written books and are guiding our movement. All right, let's get into it. God is dead. Nietzsche, right? Remember that? That's the zeitgeist these days. At least that's what I'm getting. That's the feeling, the vibe I'm getting out there. Science has or will eventually answer all questions about everything, thus making any deity, if he exists, irrelevant. 2, religion is mostly superstition or ignorance. 3, religion and science are mortal enemies of each other. And 4, science is the ultimate truth, not any religion. So I have 2 brothers, as you know. This all stays in the room, right? One is a priest, and the other is a very extreme agnostic, and I'm a Presbyterian. So Thanksgiving's interesting. We don't talk religion or politics. But this is the vibe I get when I'm talking to my atheist friends. Oh, that's good for you, Keith. Pat me on the head. You know, you believe in a fairy tale. That works for you. That's fine. The broader society actually believes this, and not to our benefit. Because you can see the decline of church attendance and religious affiliation. Here's a headline from Christianity Today: decline of Christianity shows no sign of stopping. And then many of the respondents cited science as one of the main reasons they don't have faith. That was a Pew Research study that just came out. The fastest growing group in this country are the nuns, and not Catholic nuns. They are NONES. They have no religious affiliation. So our side's not winning. This church is, though. I was pleased to see the cars and during Sunday. Yeah, thanks, Gloria. Yeah, thanks to your efforts and a lot of others. So, okay, here's argument 1 for intelligent design. The universe had a beginning. Meet Albert Einstein, the father of intelligent design. LOL. He'd be rolling over in his grave. Among other things, his general theory of relativity, 1950, showed the universe was either expanding or contracting, but it wasn't static. Up to this time, it was universally, there's another dad joke, accepted that the universe was static, that is, unchanging, eternal, and I should have added infinite. Einstein believed this too, and thought there must be something wrong with that part of his theory. But other physicists and astronomers confirmed his theory with their own experiments. So for thousands of years, ever since Aristotle, everybody thought the universe was eternal. And everybody thought it was infinite. It was only in 1915 when they even entertained the prospect of a universe that had a beginning. And it took a while for that idea to become consensus science. So one of the scientists who helped confirm Einstein's theory was a Catholic priest and a physicist. His name was Father Georges Lemaitre, whose equations showed the universe was expanding from a singularity. There he is with an admirer. Einstein said the good father was terrible at mathematics. And he didn't like what the good father discovered. He discovered that the universe started from a singularity. Anybody heard that term before? Singularity? Black holes, maybe? Yeah. The singularity has some singular qualities. It has zero space, so no mass or energy. It marks the beginning of time. It is infinitely curved and dense. It's either eternal or popped out of nothing, which is impossible scientifically. Either way, the singularity lies beyond a scientific explanation because the laws of science haven't been created yet. So the singularity, yeah.
We have a silver Volkswagen that's blocking a driveway out here? Does anyone have a silver
Oh, gosh,
Volkswagen?
wait a second.
Nobody? Okay, sorry. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So just, wrap your minds around that. This is what the theory of general relativity leads us to. There was a time when there was no time. No space, no matter, or energy. So Einstein hated this idea of the singularity. He thought it smacked the Christian dogma of creation, which, frankly, it does. It was beyond the reach of scientific laws. So Einstein changed his theory of relativity to try to avoid Father Lemaitre's stunning conclusions. He later called this change to his own theory the greatest stupidity of his life and changed the theory back to its original form. He eventually accepted the idea of the singularity. But it was a tough road for him. He had a complicated relationship with religion. Sort of believed it, sort of didn't. But he was always kind of cryptic about what he really believed. Okay, meet physicist Fred Hoyle, who coined the term Big Bang to make fun of it. And hopefully this will work here.
The Big Bang Theory requires a recent origin of the universe that openly invites the concept of creation.
Well, Dr. Hoyle, that's great. Welcome to our side. Yeah, that's great. I thought you were making fun of the Big Bang.
I will accept the Big Bang Theory when Einstein combs his hair, which is to say, never.
Yeah, he never did. He died believing the steady state theory, which is that the universe is eternal and infinite. So this is the discovery of the cosmic microwave background. Penzias and Wilson were researching microwaves for long-distance phone calls. They kept hearing this weird hiss in the background from every direction that they pointed their telescope. So they cleaned out the telescope. They thought pigeon droppings were in there. They finally realized what they were hearing was cosmic microwave background, or the first light. This is the first light, I believe, that the universe produced, and it's accepted today, accepted science.
The best data that we have are exactly what I would have predicted had I nothing to do go on, but the first 5 books of Moses, the Psalms, the Bible as a whole.
And I believe he was an atheist, but he had to admit their discovery had theistic implications.
I earned my PhD from my work on the singularity. Where did you earn yours?
Oh, sorry. Well, Mizzou. Sorry, Dr. Hawking. So Dr. Hawking came up with the singularity theorem. If you'll notice what I've circled in red, it's infinite curvature of the universe equals 0 spatial volume. He earned his PhD with this formula. There was a movie that he starred in, Theory of Everything, I believe it was, where he said, I want this formula carved on my headstone.
You earned a bachelor's degree at Mizzou. You must have been a real party animal.
No, that's Mizzou, not the zoo, Dr. Hawking. Okay, thanks. Okay, argument 2. The universe is fine-tuned for life. Fine-tuning, the anthropic principle. In order for life to exist at all, the universe has to have at least 25 certain physical laws or constants of nature fine-tuned to an incredible degree. All these constants are extraordinarily improbable. Their improbability is so large, in fact, that we cannot reasonably attribute their existence to pure chance, so it's reasonable to attribute the conditions to intelligent design as one explanation. So that's an AI image that I created to show all the knobs, all the gauges, all the physical constants that would have to be fine-tuned to an amazing degree in order for life, for the universe to exist in the first place, galaxies to form, stars, planets, and finally human beings, because we're all made of star stuff. We're all made of the heavy elements that were created in stars. Okay, what are these constants of nature? Well, I'm just going to spend 25 minutes on each one, Tom, if that's okay, and I'll have you out of it by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. No, we're not going to go into them, but they all have to be perfectly fine-tuned to within 0.1 or 0.0 and some amazing, I'm going to have a glass of water here, amazing degree. So, what do prominent atheist physicists think of the fine-tuning argument?
It will be very difficult to explain why the universe would have begun in just this way, except that the act of a God who intended to create beings like us.
Thank you, Dr. Hockney.
A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology.
Scientists are slowly waking up to an inconvenient truth. The universe looks suspiciously like a fix.
You have to spend time thinking about it. It's not a trivial argument. We atheists all say that.
Anybody heard of Christopher Hitchens? Kind of a nasty man, right? Richard Dawkins is a gentleman. Christopher wasn't, not with us anymore. Everybody was praying for him, by the way. He died of throat cancer, I believe. Apparently that really touched him, but I digress. Oh, Dr. Hawking. Anyway, so you do believe there's a God, right?
Not so fast, Keith. I want that statement back in one of my later books, but I bet you didn't read it because you earned your degree in the zoo.
Not the zoo, Mizzou. All right. Who remembers that skit? Anybody? Oh God, I'm showing my age. Right. So we're going to go through a brief, very brief history of quantum mechanics, okay? Buckle up, because it gets weird. Okay, quantum mechanics in 30 seconds or less. And there's a reason why I'm explaining this, and you'll understand in the next slide. Matter, electrons, atoms, photons, on a very small scale can behave as either a wave or a particle, defying classical physics. Einstein hated this idea. He was a classical physicist guy. So if you fire a photon gun through a single slit, you get, bunch of individual particles just like you would expect. If you fire single photons, electrons, or even atoms through a double slit, you get a wave pattern. So the same photon or subatomic particle is interfering with itself. The same particle is going through both slits at the same time. Shall I say that again? Well, you can think of it that way, or you can think of it as a quantum wave of probabilities. It's not real until you measure it. And that's the Copenhagen interpretation after Niels Bohr, who discovered quantum mechanics, or was one of the early proponents of it. Once you put a detector up in the double slit, you get a pattern like that again. It's almost like the subatomic particles just raise their hands and say, here I am. They become real again, but you need an observer for that. Now, in all fairness, there are other interpretations, but I think there was an observer, especially at the beginning of the universe, and I'll make that even more pointed at the end here. Okay, the reason I went through the quantum wave is this is a multiverse theory number 2. I don't know about number 1. No, we skipped the multiverse theory. There we go. Okay, I didn't talk about this, right? To get around the fine-tuning problem, scientists have had to posit something called the multiverse theory. Who's heard of the multiverse? Anybody? Okay. According to this theory, right, there are an infinite number of universes that arose just a second after the Big Bang. In fact, a nanosecond or less, Planck time, if that means anything to anybody. These universes all have different physical laws, constants of nature, than our universe. Well, this solves the problem of fine-tuning. Problem solved. Because with an infinite number of universes, you can have an infinite number of physical laws, and we just happen to live in the one that supports life as we know it. We won the cosmic lottery, according to multiverse theory. Tiny bubbles. Everybody, those are bubble universes, by the way. However, even with inflationary theory, you still have the problem of the singularity, which means when all space, time, matter, and energy started. So it solves fine-tuning, but not the creation of the universe. There we go, we went to that. Went to the double slit experiment. Okay, this is the second most popular multiverse theory, quantum cosmology. It's Stephen Hawking's contribution to the debate. So his theory goes, before the Big Bang, there was a super space that exists in imaginary time using imaginary numbers. Anybody remember that from high school? Imaginary numbers, calculus? Yeah. So he used imaginary numbers to create imaginary time. The imaginary time contains a singularity. They still can't get past that. And the quantum mechanical universal wave function, the universal wave function eventually collapses into one universe out of an infinity of possible universes. Once again, you need an infinity of possible universes to get around the fine-tuning problem. They cannot have a fine-tuned universe because even atheists agree that it is incredibly unlikely to the point of impossibility. But with this, you get many universes. Again, it's another multiverse theory and one of the most prevalent. But you still need an observer to collapse the quantum wave. Now, Dr. Hawking would say, no, you really don't. You know, the quantum wave hits a macroscopic barrier and becomes real that way. But the Copenhagen interpretation would require, and once again, this is still one of the quantum mechanics philosophy, requires an observer. You needed a detector in order to make the universe real. And gee, I wonder who that observer might be, if quantum cosmology is correct. Okay, here's problems with all the multiverse concepts, and here's anybody see, probably not Marvel movies, they'd have you believe the multiverse is real. In fact, I have a friend who, she started her own business in her basement and made $50 million and retired at 50 years old. But we were hiking one day, she said, oh yeah, the multiverse is real. Yeah, it's real, okay. She's one of the reasons I produced this presentation. I didn't argue with her. You don't argue with women, period. And you especially don't argue with somebody who made $50 million starting a business out of their basement. Anyway, there's zero evidence for any multiverse, quantum cosmology, or any other theory that attempts to get around the fine-tuning problem. Zero evidence for a multiverse. Just remember that, because you won't hear that. You hear the multiverse is real in a lot of spheres. Even if they discovered an infinite number of multiverses tomorrow, you would need a multiverse-generating machine to produce them. No humans could live in any of these multiverses because they aren't fine-tuned. So a multiverse would need some kind of generating machine itself. At some point, these arguments get so convoluted that they violate a law called parsimony in science, which means it's too complicated. There's got to be a simpler explanation. Okay, let's dive into the origin and evolution of life. So buckle up again, because I may say something that upsets you. It upsets a lot of people. Yes, we're going to talk about Darwinism. There he is in all his glory, Charles Chuck Darwin. We're going to spend some time at his diner. Today's special, primordial soup. Who's heard of the primordial soup? Anybody? Everybody's heard of primordial soup, right? It's served lukewarm with all organic ingredients, by the way. If it will, there we go. So here's Darwin on the origin and evolution of life. This is a quote from Origin of Species, 1859. But if, and oh, what a big if, we could conceive in some warm little pond that a protein compound was chemically formed that became the first life. So he never coined the term primordial soup, but he did say warm little pond. Another quote, which is kind of interesting and apropos to my presentation. If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed, like the eye or spleen or anything else, which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. He's going to regret saying that. Maybe he already is, wherever he is. There we go. Who's seen the Miller or knows the Miller-Urey experiment? You know, where they filled a flask full of gas and shot some electricity to stimulate or simulate lightning, and then produce some amino acids. Actually, this was in a lot of textbooks and still is, unfortunately. It's zombie science. It's been thoroughly debunked. All sorts of problems, won't get into them. Early Earth atmosphere wasn't correct. Amino acids are not the right kind. They need to be right-handed, not left-handed. Miller's own associates, who worked on it, have rejected this experiment. And unfortunately, the zombie science still featured in high school and college textbooks. All right, real quick, Darwinian evolution. Two types, micro and macro. Natural selection of random changes or genetic mutations in members within a species that give them a survival advantage in their environment. That's microevolution. The famous finches of Galapagos Islands, you ever heard of them? The peppered moths? Yeah, right. That's an example of microevolution. Intelligent design is fine with that. The evidence for microevolution is plentiful. We agree with that. This is where we differ from evolution. All life originated from a single one-celled organism that eventually evolved in all the plant and animal species on Earth, and that's macroevolution. ID believes the evidence simply doesn't support this. Oh. Okay, Tree of Life, anybody remember that? The Tree of Darwin, one cell was formed and everything, plant and animal, evolved from that, including humans, right? That's what you see in a lot of textbooks. Many people still believe it. That is what was theorized. That is what we found. The fossil record down here shows that 70 to 80% of all animal phyla emerged during the Cambrian explosion of the Paleozoic era with no intermediate life forms in the fossil record, as was predicted by Darwinian theory. So that's what they theorized, Darwin and others after him. And this is what we have found. Those lines down there are when most of the major phyla appeared. Some of them appeared much later, but notice they don't intersect. They're not in the same lineage with each other. They're all separate with no intermediate forms leading to them. We go from single-celled organisms in a frothy ocean to the Cambrian explosion of multi-celled organism with no intermediate fossils in between. Even evolutionary biologists have admitted this is a problem. This doesn't fit their theory. Okay, let's get into DNA. It's a language with 4 nucleotide letters, adenine, I think, thymine, cytosine, guanine. When these letters occur in a specific sequence, they create instructions for amino acids, which create a specific protein. So those are the 4 letters in the alphabet of DNA. They give the instructions for arranging the amino acids into proteins, which all living cells need. I get it to advance. There we go. So there are identical biochemical bonds between the 4 bases and the sugar phosphate backbone of the double helix. But if you'll notice, now is when I need the pointer, there are no lines between the pairs of nucleotide acids, which mean they could be in any order. There's no biochemical reason they're in the order they in. They could be in any order. In fact, as we'll soon learn in the next slide, there are many more possible orderings of those pair bases than there are orderings that would produce a functional protein. So, and there are over 1 million proteins in the human body. if I aim it better. Okay. Whenever we see information, we know there's an intelligence behind it. The histone H4 is the simplest protein we know. It only has 150 amino acids. Most proteins have hundreds and thousands, but I picked the simplest one. There's Morse code, and this is the protein known as histone H4. There's the computer binary code of that protein. And the DNA code on the bottom is the actual DNA code for that protein. If you'll note it, it's highly irregular. It doesn't follow a repeating pattern. It's an actual code for creating that protein. And again, this is the simplest one. Most proteins have hundreds, thousands of proteins, and humans have 1 million. So let's do the math real quickly. Histone H2A is one of the simplest proteins in the human body with only about 150 amino acids, but they must be arranged in an exact order. And because there are 20 different amino acids, which can be arranged in any order, by the way, that's a protein fold right there done in multicolors. What are the odds of one protein forming from natural selection through random mutation? So there's 150 amino acids. There's 20 different amino acids, 20 to the 150. So there's one chance out of 1 to 10 to the 195th power, a single protein can result randomly from all possible combinations. That's a 1 followed by 195 zeros. So there's one chance out of 1 to the 195th power that will have a functional protein. All the other orderings of the DNA, of the amino acids, will lead to something that doesn't work. So here's the conclusion. There is not enough time, or was not enough time, in the 3.85 billion year history of life to create one new proton from natural selection through random mutation. That is the mathematical fact that the evolutionary Darwinists cannot get beyond. They're having a terrible time accepting, well, they know that our math is correct. Their attitude is, well, we'll find it. We'll figure something out here. But the ball's in their court. The math is against them. By the way, that is the most simple one-celled organism there is. It only has 400 proteins. Again, humans have about 1 million or more. It's really a complex piece of machinery. It's also a sexually transmitted disease. So, go figure. Okay, doubts about neo-Darwinism. So it's not just intelligent design people. Atheist evolutionary biologists are having a terrible time figuring out, how did this happen? Natural selection through random mutation is mathematically impossible. So the Altenberg 16 were 16 brave atheist evolutionary biologists who met in Altenberg, Austria in 2008. The Altenberg 16 expressed doubts about the creative power of Darwinism. I mean, these guys were brave because Darwinism, as many of you know, is dogma in the world of science. They call for a new theory of evolution in light of new data, evidence, and concepts. In 2016, the Royal Society, the world's oldest scientific society, Isaac Newton once presided over it, listened as Dr. Gerd Mueller outlined the explanatory deficits of neo-Darwinism as it relates to the origin and evolution of life. That is earth-shaking news. They realize there is a problem with the fossil record. They realize there's a mathematical problem of natural selection through random mutation. Did they fall on their knees and say the sinner's prayer? No. No, they didn't. But they said, oh, we're working on it, right? Oh, that's evolutionary biologist Gerd Mueller, famous atheist, who was the ringleader of the Altenberg 16. Okay, here we go. God of the gaps argument. Anybody hear the God of the gaps argument? Also known as argument from ignorance. Who remembers the Gap, by the way? Is this Gap still around? That was a cool place, right? So this is the God of the gaps argument. This is what we get what's thrown against intelligent design proponents. Whenever theists find a gap in scientific knowledge, they immediately, people like us, theists, right? They immediately insert a supernatural cause to fill in that gap, which will someday be filled with a natural or materialistic answer. So we just throw God in, right? When we can't understand things, us stupid Christians. Oh, we only invented science. But we believe there are no gaps in our theory. No gaps. Intelligent design is a positive argument from inference to the best explanation and not ignorance. It's not an argument from ignorance, it's an argument from knowledge, the math, the fossil evidence, and the beginning of the universe from nothing. Patterns are not plausibly explained by pure chance or natural causes, and the evidence fits best with a deliberate agent acting with intent. Those are philosophical definitions of the inference to the best explanation. It's a positive argument, not an argument from ignorance. Okay, here are 3 takeaways. And I'm throwing a lot at you. If you only come away with this, right, then my job is done. There is ample scientific evidence for an intelligent designer that sounds suspiciously like the God of the Bible. Well, let's take it. The beginning of the universe, let there be light. There was light. I showed you the picture of the first light of the universe, the cosmic microwave background. And the universe is created out of nothing. There's no evidence for quantum cosmology or any multiverse. This is consensus science. Number 2, there are fatal flaws with neo-Darwinism, that is, universe and life originated by natural, undirected, random processes, something many biologists acknowledge. Again, their answer is, we're working on it. The DNA molecule is similar to software or an alphabet that carries information. The only way information is created through an intelligence, not through any natural law. This is probably the strongest argument in intelligent design. You saw the code for DNA. It's not regular. It's not repeating like a code for salt, sodium chloride, where it goes A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. DNA goes A, G, T, C, G, all mixed up instructions to produce proteins. You cannot produce those instructions through a natural law. If you did, we'd be all ears, all spleens, all one type of body part, all kidneys, but we're not. We have different body parts, different amino acid proteins through a code that we get in the DNA, which is in every cell of our body. You can only get that through intelligence, folks. Okay, one final cosmic thought. How we doing on time? Okay.
For the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad tree. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians sitting there for centuries. Robert Jastrow, God and the Astronomers.
Great book, by the way. Great book. So there you have it. It's a lot of ground to cover. I see a lot of faces. Guys, is that too much? Yes, Mr. Bickle.
Higgs boson.
Pardon me? What? The Higgs boson. What about it? It's actually the goddamn particle. Yeah, it was never the God particle. They couldn't find it, so they went, God damn it, where is it? It's one of the constants of nature that I spoke about. Yeah, it's part of it's got to be calibrated to the nth degree in order for the universe to work at all. Correct. Yep.
So I'm curious, what do you think of the effect of the double helix, how that functions with the DNA?
What do I think about it?
I mean, how does it fit?